Вперед! Шагом! Марш!
As Fairfax and the British 3rd Brigade flee back down the highway, the main British forces re-enter Sarria. Whilst in the valley, General Hector MacDonald and the Highlanders tire of chasing French forces who continue to flee up the valley, and begin to return down towards the 3rd Brigade. Meanwhile, Field Marshal Sir Percival Giffard leads his forces into the Second Battle of Sarria.
On the outskirts of Sarria, near a small farmstead, the British forces find their way blocked by the cream of the French cavalry. Sir Percival Giffard makes note of 3 important locations, including a hill, a field of sunflowers, and a farmhouse. Unfortunately for Sir Percival Giffard, the hill is occupied by French cannon and cavalry. First up to assault the hill are the British 2nd Brigade, which contains a large amount of cannon and attached lancers. French turn 1 begins with the roar of French counter-artillery fire, and with a cheer they draw first blood. Hussars begin to sweep around the farmhouse on the French right as the main cavalry force seek to sweep around a small forest to block the British advance. British turn 1. As the British artillery return fire, their superior numbers quickly become a problem for the now depleted French cannon. French turn 2. The few remaining French pieces continue to do damage to their British counterparts. Meanwhile, the middle guard have arrived, quickly taking position near the farm on their right, as General de Brigade, Jean-Charles Abatuxia, leads more battalions up the centre. The guard cannon battery joins their compatriots in the centre, evening up the artillery duel. British turn 2. Undaunted, the British cannon continued to take a toll on their French counterparts. The lancers and infantry are encouraged to advance upon the heavy French cavalry just as their 4th Brigade has arrived, who move to oppose the middle guard. French turn 3. Inspired by the arrival of the guard, and with a roar of defiance, the shattered French battery regroups, seeking to return fire with extreme prejudice. On the French far right, a small detachment of lancers joined the hussars, whilst more middle guard and hussars pack into the gap between the hill and the farmstead. Meanwhile, on the French left, the cavalry continued to hold position. British turn 3. Undeterred, the British batteries continue to take a toll on their French counterparts. The 2nd Brigade advance upon the forest, still somewhat wary of the French cavalry. Whilst in the centre, the 4th slowly started to edge forward as the Hanoverians form square to cover the flank. French turn 4. All the French forces hold position as the guard artillery pick have some off the advancing light cavalry. British turn 4. With a final shattering volley, the British artillery wins their duel, ending the defiance of the brave French crews. On the British right, some advancing light troops take pot shots at the carabiners to some effect. Taking advantage of the topography, British infantry enters the forest, encouraging their centre to continue advancing. French turn 5. Prudence leads to the French cavalry falling back to the central hill. The middle guard continue to advance with aplomb, drawing the English attention as the hussars continue their flanking action. British turn 5. Turning their attention to the French cavalry, the British artillery continues to take a toll on the opposition, supported by the advancing skirmish line out of the forest. The Hanoverian squares send out their own skirmishers, who begin to pepper the hussars with accurate fire. As the musket smoke dissipates, the English infantry continue to advance upon the central hill. At this point in the battle, both forces find themselves wheeling around each other. French turn 6. On the hill, the French cavalry constrict their lines even more. As a rumble of hooves signals the carbineers charging into the lancers, supported by the disciplined advance of the middle guard battalions, who are soon joined by the small hussar regiment. In a shock twist, the French heavy cavalry are destroyed by the British allied hussars who, buoyed by their victory, proceed to charge into the middle guard line, and receiving a bloody nose from the disciplined French infantry, are forced to retreat in disorder. British turn 6. The dominant British batteries now turn their fire onto the Guard artillery. At the same time, the British forces advancing on the hill begin to fire into the defending cavalry, taking a heavy toll on the carabiniers. On the opposite flank, the British squares and skirmishers pepper the oncoming Guard brigade. With a rumble of hooves, the surviving Allied hussars charge into the flank of the small French hussar regiment. As musket balls fly between the two forces, the victorious Allied hussars again charge into a middle guard line, only to be yet again sent packing. French turn 7 begins with the Guard battalions charging into the British squares and line, supported by the cuirassier regiment, who have come off the hill to support the Malays. The fights are bloody and the results mixed. The cuirassiers, for all their pomp and flash, are disappointingly seen off, and somehow a Guard battalion lost to a square. The hussar-supported Guard fight had no clear victor, and the only highlight for the French was the Guard in the centre, who saw off a battalion outside the grove. British turn 7. The cannon fire into the victorious Guard as they are flanked by Allied lancers. But the Guard proves their mettle, seeing off the lancers. The British have overwhelming numbers on their left flank, and in the centre their infantry has finally advanced upon the hill. French turn 8. As the depleted middle guard charged into the Hanoverians, their hussar support chose to charge into the Allied hussars. The fights do not go well for the French, and the Guard flee the field as the hussars fall back in disorder. Meanwhile, in the centre, the remaining Guard and Lancers turn to face the oncoming British forces. British turn 8. Field Marshal Sir Percival Giffard has the French forces cornered, but his own forces are depleted and scattered around the field of battle. As the day ends, he recalls his forces, leaving the Second Battle of Sarria a disappointing draw. The French have taken severe losses but held their ground.